come now to the main course, and it couldn't be served more attractively than by a young star who is the West Coast distributor of charm, Miss Audrey Hepburn.
I'm honored to present the award for the Best Motion Picture of the Year. The Apartment, Billy Wilder.
Welcome back to The Better Half. I'm Bradley J. Halverson, and here with me, she has the key to my heart. It's Carly Corio. Hi, Carly.
Hi, Brad. You're my better half. How are you?
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Life is lifing. We're here, so,
Always.
And
we're back in the studio after our trip.
Yes, we had a very fun time with our first guest, friend of the pod, Eddie. But it's also nice to be, back in our studio,
Feels like home. It feels really good.
And I'm excited to talk about this movie, Carly. I really am. I think when we pulled it, we were like, The Apartment. What's that about? Very mysterious. I was like, it could be a thriller. It could be a horror movie even. But it's
As
not.
Eddie said, is it the prequel to Rent?
Right.
Yeah, we had no idea what this movie was going to be at all.
No idea. It is, I will say, a romantic comedy. And I'm just going to say this now. Nobody dies in this movie. Like, for once, finally, we made it. And this movie does what Around the World in 80 Days didn't do, which was show us New York City. Like, we are here, baby. We made it, finally, to the big city.
We are in New York, and we stay in New York. The full film was in New York City.
Wow.
And this is the first film where we don't go abroad.
That's true.
All.
Yeah, true to the title, we really kind of stay
in the apartment.
In the apartment.
Or the workplace. It depends on...
Yeah, there's really two just sets. Two different locations of this movie. Just the office and the apartment.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are here to talk about The Apartment, directed by Billy Wilder, released in 1960. It won Best Picture at the 33rd Academy Awards, which took place on April 17th, 1961.
Good year.
And Carly, I would love to hear your short synopsis of this movie. What do you got?
Yes, so The Apartment, in a quick synopsis, is about a Manhattan insurance clerk who tries to rise in his company by letting its executives use his apartment for trysts. But office politics and his own romantic hopes complicate matters. Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. I do like the word tryst. I think it's fun.
Yeah, me too. It was hard to say, and I really practiced a few times for the pod. But yeah, tryst is a good word, and it fits this film perfectly. Yeah,
this is also truly our first black and white film. Wings was definitely black and white, but then they slapped on this weird color filter. The Apartment was released a few years later after Around the World in 80 Days, which was definitely updated in color. And I think necessarily so. I think it would have been weird to watch Around the World in 80 Days without having it in color if that was just in black and white.
Yeah.
Like the hide air balloon, just like the bullfighting, imagine watching that in black and white.
Yeah, you're so right. You really wouldn't have gotten the worldly culture without color in that film. So you're so right.
Which is why I think for this movie, I think it doesn't necessarily need color. It did not bother me.
No.
I wrote in my notes, black and white, baby. And then I wrote long opening credits on smiley
I
face.
wrote black and white, frown face.
Yeah.
But it did not bother me, you're right. But that was the first thing I was like, aw.
Aw.
But I got through it and it was fine, I agree.
Yeah.
And it was a long opening credit, you're right.
Again, we're back, baby.
We were so spoiled with $1 Million Baby, no opening credits.
Yep.
And they slapped us with a 6-minute opening creditor, but it's fine.
Yep, so we kind of get we're greeted to some aerial shots of New York City. We start to hear voiceover narration. This is going to be from our main character, whose name is Calvin Clifford C.C. Baxter, or otherwise known as Bud.
A.K.A. Bud, a.k.a. Buddy Boy.
Buddy Boy. We start to hone in from these drone shots to this particular high-rise building. Bud is explaining to us that he is an office worker for this big company. He's on the 19th floor. And genuinely, this floor is like huge. Like there's, it's just filled with rows and rows of desks, each with a different worker on it. There's no cubicles. There's no sort of partitions, no supporting beams, no wall. I don't know how the floor is still standing. So Bud works here. He lets us know that he makes $94.70 a week at his job, which is bonkers.
Unbelievable.
And he says, they work a typical day. They work like 9 a.m. to like 5:30 or something like that. But he's not always very excited for the end of the workday. And so we're starting to wonder, like, okay, why? So he's like slowly kind of walking his way home to his apartment. And we cut 2 shots inside the apartment where there is a man and a woman quickly getting dressed. The man's like, hurry, lady. Like, we were supposed to be out of here by 8 o'clock.
We gotta get out of here.
And she's like taking her time. She's like, oh, this was so fun. And there was like a funny moment where she's like, you don't bring the other girls here, do you? And he was like, no, I'm married. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Which I think is the first point where we're like, oh, because I think you kind of assume as a viewer that they're a couple. And then, yeah.
Yep. Nope. This is a man in the mid or post tryst getting ready. And he's like, we were supposed to be out of here by 8. We got to put the key under the mat. Meanwhile, we cut to outside where Bud has arrived outside of his apartment building. He lives in the Upper West Side of New York City, a nice bougie area over by Central Park. He says that his rent has increased from $80 a month to $85 a month.
To which I say, okay.
Okay. Carly, I would kill, like murder for $85.
I mean, we pay what, $85 a day, an hour to live in our
at
places?
Starbucks.
Yeah, exactly.
So we kind of learn, and again, Bud is giving us some voiceover narration here, but what we're learning is that he's allowing some of his managers at work to use his one and only apartment key to have affairs. Bud is basically like an Airbnb host.
Yeah,
and he
definitely is the originator of the Airbnb idea.
But what's baffling is he's not charging. Like he's willfully just giving his key away. And managers in return are making promises like, hey, we're going to put in a good word with you at work. We're going to get you that promotion you've always wanted. But otherwise, unlike an Airbnb host, Bud is not being directly paid for doing this. And again, giving away his one and only apartment key. So he literally can't get into his apartment building because he's waiting. And the manager and his like lady friend, they leave. And so he finally goes in and gets the key from under the mat. He does have very nosy neighbors who immediately like sort of pop out and they're like, hey, Bud, we heard some noises. We heard some trysting.
The neighbors are actually 2 of my favorite parts. They're like my favorite part of the whole movie. There's the recurring role they play in the movie. Loved it. Yeah,
they're very gently judging. Like they're not too rude about it, but they're like, wow, a lot of alcohol bottles. Like I guess when it comes to trysting, you gotta down several bottles of liquor. Bud's constantly having to dispose these empty bottles. And then, these neighbors can, of course, hear the trysting noises through the walls. So,
and the neighbor is a doctor, Dr. Dreyfus.
Yes.
And he's very much like, wow, like, how do you physically keep up with all these women and all this drinking? And I think he says, like, please, when you die, you should donate your body to science because we've got to look into this. Like, we don't know how the heck do you do it?
Your stamina, Bud.
Yeah,
amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah, so these neighbors have no idea what's really going on, and they have this image of Bud as being like a playboy of sorts, and they think all these women coming to his apartment are with Bud when that is not the case. So we kind of get a glimpse into Bud's apartment life here, and he doesn't also, as Airbnb host, he doesn't make these managers clean up after themselves. So
no, he cleans up.
He cleans up, not very well, but like he has to take the record off, fluff the pillows again, clean up all the empty bottles. His kitchen is just a mess. And as I watched him sort of clean up, because I was like, oh, he has to do the cleaning himself. So, like, what about his bed, though? Like, what about, like...
Oh, yeah. He does not change the sheets.
Right, we never
don't see him change the sheets.
So, like, not only is he willfully kind of giving his apartment key away, like, letting them, I'm assuming, use their bed.
And we learned that he basically has to stock his apartment for these things. Like, yes. He keeps it stocked with alcohol that they like. He keeps it stocked with, cigars, cigarettes, whatever they need. He keeps it stocked for them. So... Yep. He's really in this business and he's going all out.
Yeah, and, we already have the first hint that these managers are not really, like, for the few rules that there is, such as like, please leave by 8 o'clock, like we already see the managers start to take advantage of the situation. So Bud is like cleaning up and he's ready to like sit down and relax for the evening. And I thought this was funny because he goes and sits down to watch a movie. And on the TV, it's like, and now for Grand Hotel, which is a previous Best Picture winner, which I think is funny.
Yeah.
And kind of cool because like when this movie debuted, they couldn't have possibly have known they were going to be a very soon Best Picture winner. So,
yeah,
but they were like, Grand Hotel, but first a word from our sponsor. So he watches this advertisement, whatever. He comes back and they're like, all right, and now get ready for Grand Hotel, but a word from our alternate sponsor. And Bud rolls his eyes and just turns the TV off. And I found that very relatable because I watched this movie on Amazon Prime where I was also treated to like 2.5 minutes of advertisements before this movie could begin. So.
So true. And I was so annoyed that the 2.5 minutes was a thing in my case. And I was like, I don't know, like 2.5 minutes. And it was the longest 2.5 minutes. And I really think it was longer than that. But yeah, I could empathize.
So he takes a sleeping pill or two and he goes to sleep, but he is woken up in the middle of the night by his phone ringing. He goes to answer it and we learn, and it's one of his other managers. We learn there's more than one using this apartment. But this other manager, he's like, it must be like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., but he's like out, the bar's closing. He's like in a little like, almost like payphone booth kind of situation. And we see like a blonde woman. He was like, please, you gotta let me use this apartment now. She looks like Marilyn Monroe. Like, please. And this random woman is so funny. She walks up and she's like, who are you on the phone with? And he's like, my mother. And she's like, aw, that's so sweet.
Again, it's 2:30 a.m.
Yeah. And Bud is like, I just took sleeping pills. Like, you know the rules. Like, you got to schedule this in advance. He's like, I got to sleep here tonight. And this manager is not having it. He was like, but she looks like Marilyn Monroe. And we see Bud like folds. I do think the manager is like, I'm going to put in a good word for you, of course, like at work. And Bud, even though he's like under the effects of some sleeping pills, he literally vacates the apartment and leaves the key. And he falls asleep literally on like a park bench.
Yeah. Yep. And he's all bundled up. Like you can tell it's cold out.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And because of this, when we see Bud the next morning, he's got the sniffles. He's sick.
He's really sick and he talks like this.
Yeah. So Bud heads to work the next day and he takes the elevator up. And this elevator system is wild. There's a lot of different elevators, but there's an elevator operator within each elevator to go up and down. These elevators are crammed. It looked very uncomfortable. But this particular elevator is being operated by a woman named Fran. Played by our friend of the pod, Shirley MacLaine.
Our girl.
Shirley is back, and this is a few years removed from her memorable performance as the Hindu princess woman.
It is in black and white, but we believe it's her true skin tone.
True skin tone. And she's sporting a new hairdo, which all the men just can't help themselves but comment on. I don't know, Carly, would you call this like a pixie cut? Like it's very much like... Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Sporting a hair that I would probably say is probably controversial for the 1960s. And maybe this will help you, the listener, as well. But the vibe of this workplace is very Mad Men-esque. Like the
100%.
Yeah.
That's all I kept thinking.
Very much like these office men having affairs on their wives, the whole workplace culture. You know, after the elevator ride, as they get off, one of the managers who uses the apartments, he like slaps Fran on the butt on the way out. He also has this line that I wrote down because I really don't understand, but he kind of looks to Bud and he was like, well, I would like to get her on a slow elevator to China. And I no idea what he means by that, but I hate it.
I wrote that down too because I wasn't sure, but the more I think about it, I'm thinking he just wants to spend a lot of time with just her in an elevator.
Yeah.
You know?
I think so. Which, like, run, Fran, you in danger, girl.
Yeah.
So,
still not very clear.
Yeah. I would actually say, though, like, in this short elevator ride, like, Fran, Shirley MacLaine, she, like, stands out immediately. Like, she has a very much, like, cute dialogue exchange with Bud where he's like, oh, I'm sick. And she's like, yeah, I can tell. And he's like spouting off facts about like how often people have the cold or whatever. And she's like, well, that means if you don't get a cold, then some other guy's going to get 5 colds a year or whatever.
Yeah, it was a cute thing. He was like, he said some like statistic. He's like, well, on average, you get 5 colds a year. And then she's like, well, that makes me feel bad. And he was like, why? She's like, well, because if I get no colds a year, then someone else is getting more. Yeah. So it was just this cute little exchange. And she was cute with, of course, Bud, but also she just knew everyone's names. Like, you could tell she's a good elevator control woman.
And when Bud and this pervy manager get off the elevator and the manager is talking about her, he also kind of mentions like, oh, like, we've all tried to get a crack at Fran and she rejects us all. Like, and I literally wrote down like, Fran rejects all the pervy men, queen. So, and in fact too, when he slaps her on the butt when they walk out of the elevator, she was like, do that again, and the next time I'm going to let these elevator doors just close on ya.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, we got icon potential here.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's our first introduction to her. And I'm probably going to gush about her a lot because like when we last saw Shirley MacLaine, she was playing a character that Carly and I really didn't connect with.
No.
She barely had any dialogue. She was there as a side piece. So it was really cool to see her actually have a good role, I would say, to actually have dialogue, to actually just like not just be someone who's like fawning over a man right away and like is just looking to get married. It's like she very much comes in with like a specific kind of energy and a voice. And I loved that. I love the dialogue throughout this whole thing. Like,
me too.
The back and forth.
And I very much too immediately was like, oh my God, this is the set of Mad Men, you know, everything about it. And so for her, especially in a role that like she has, you know, operating the elevator, to be so like strong-willed and like to take no shit, it was so cool to see right off the bat. And it made me love her right away. So, you know, Bud heads to his desk and then we kind of get a slice of like what it looks like for him to schedule this. And we're kind of getting shown like the full scope of this operation he's got running out of his apartment, because he calls one of the managers who has the apartment scheduled for that night, but he tells the manager like, I'm sick. I need my own apartment tonight. When the manager's like, oh, he's like hemming and hawing. He's like, well, can I do next Wednesday? Then Bud looks at his schedule, realizes, oh, there's another manager scheduled. He's like, hold please. So then he calls manager number 2 and he's like, hey, like, could you do another day? And this manager number 2 is like, ugh, hemming and hawing. He's like, I guess I could do Friday. And then Bud looks at his scheduling book, but manager number 3 is booked for Friday. So then, so we learn there's 4 managers in total who are all a part of this operation, all promising Bud different things. And while he's juggling all these different phone calls to get people rescheduled, he's missing a phone call from the important people upstairs, from like the 27th floor. The director of personnel, Mr. Jeff Sheldrake. They're looking for Bud. So Bud hears this, and with all of his little tissues in his pocket, he grabs up all his stuff and he rushes back to the elevator to head up to the 27th floor or wherever. And so there's Fran again, and he's like all excited. He was like, hey, I think this is about to be good news for me. I think I'm about to get promoted. And she was like, okay. All right, well, have fun with that. All right, bye.
And I think he kind of gently throws out there like, oh, like, you know, what if we hung out sometime? Like, what if we got dinner sometime? And she's just very gently is like, oh, here's your floor, you know, and, you know, very nice about it. And Bud, he's not perturbed by this at all. So he heads off to Mr. Sheldrake's office. So this is us meeting Mr. Sheldrake for the first time. Very tall man. I mean, he's got to be above 6 foot, which is important to the plot. Okay. To my plot. But Sheldrake, he was like, these 4 different managers have all put in a good word with you. They all have really great things to say about you. And Bud's like, oh, wow, oh, golly gee. Yeah, well, that's so nice to hear. And he's like sneezing and he's got like a runny nose that's like very gross this whole time. And Sheldrake's like, yeah, I just think it's very curious. All 4 of these people are highlighting you. And, you know, I wonder what that's about. And Sheldrake is clearly trying to hint at something, but Bud is like, oh, I guess I'm a really good employee. Gosh.
I guess I'm a really good employee. Because he's super stuffy.
He's so stuffy. So Sheldrake finally, he's like, look, he's like, what's going on here? There's some sort of operation. I've cracked the case on this. Just tell me what it is. And so Bud, for whatever reason, he admits to what's going on, that they're using his apartment. And Mr. Sheldrake's like, oh, okay.
And right before that, when he was on the phone, it was with his wife.
Yeah.
And his wife, he was talking to his wife. He's like, hey, honey, I'm not going to be home tonight. Somebody from Morocco's in town, and I'm taking him to see the Music Man. And he's like, so I won't be home for dinner tonight. Don't wait on me. And then he hangs up, and then he immediately is like, you want to go to the Music Man tonight? I'll give you 2 tickets. So you immediately know something's up.
Sheldrake is like, very much like Janelle and Big Brother. Give me the key, bitch. And
well, and Bud's like, no, I'm so sick. I need to go home and rest. Like, that's all I'm doing tonight is resting. And he's like, But what about these tickets?
Yeah, he was like, what about that He's like, I want to promote you. He's like,
yeah.
Everyone said such good things about you. Like, very much hangs this over Bud's head, who relents. He hands the key over. We see him fold yet again. So he accepts the 2 tickets to Music Man, gives the key to Sheldrake to use for that night. This wasn't like he was scheduling in advance. Like, this was for the purpose of tonight. So, yes, we learn that Sheldrake is lying to his wife. Like, he's ready to tryst tonight. But Bud is more excited about the idea of possibly being promoted. Like, this is what he wants. So he's like happy to sort of leave the office. Like, I think in his mind, like, this worked out well. And he runs it to Fran again at the end of the workday. And he lets her know, like, hey, I have 2 tickets to the Music Man. Like, would you want to go with me? Do you want to go to the theater? And she was like, well, I do have to get drinks with this guy. Like, she's like, but maybe I can meet you at the theater. And he was like, oh, golly gee, yeah.
Oh.
Like, I'll see you there. So Bud is so excited, even though he's sick, won't be sleeping in his apartment. He is going to go to the Music Man.
He's super excited. And she said, I'll meet you in the lobby.
And this, for me, is where the movie gets interesting. Mm-hmm. Because then we follow Fran to this little cocktail lounge, this little piano bar. And who's the man she's getting drinks with? It's Sheldrake. It's young Sheldrake.
Young, tall, hot Sheldrake. I was so surprised by this. Like,
yes.
I really was. I don't know why in my smart brain I never considered them to be the 2 getting together. Yeah. But it was a very cool, like, it reminded me a little bit, and there were a couple things in this movie that did this to me, but like Crazy Stupid Love, when that big twist comes out, like, it's rare that I'm like fully shocked by a movie, but this I was like, what? So yeah, I really enjoyed this twist on the movie.
I do too. And for some reason I just feel like old movies are boring, or like they kind of establish the tropes that then get twisted years later. So to kind of see something like this in 1960 like is fun. Like I find it really fun. And so yeah, we learn really quickly in this dialogue between Fran and Sheldrake is that they used to be a thing. They had like a summer fling, and that kind of ended. And really the writing here is so good. Like, Fran jumps into this like mini little monologue that I loved. Well, she's kind of talking about like, you meet a man and you think it's going really great, and he's married, but you care about him and you have such fun, but then he gets on a train to go back to his family to White Plains, and he leaves you there, and he doesn't always pick up the phone, and it ends with like, it all just gets so ugly. And chef's kiss, like this is the Shirley MacLaine we've been waiting for.
And I know you have taken a lot more writing classes than me, but I took this random like screenwriting class because I had to in undergrad. And a big thing with my teacher was like, in a movie you need to explain, like you can't show everything, so you need to use dialogue to tell a lot. And this maybe 5-minute scene of them in this little restaurant, it gave you such an idea of the past 6 months between these 2. It told you their feelings. It told you that Shirley MacLaine was truly brokenhearted. It told you that, Sheldrake really did love her, and you can tell. It told you about Sheldrake's marriage. It told you about their history. It told you so much in this 5-minute dialogue, and I really loved it.
And Sheldrake in this scene, he puts on a little bit of performance here, but he's like, well, what if I told you I'm divorcing my wife? It's no longer working. I'm leaving her, and I want you, Fran. It's you that I love. And Fran believes it because I think she wants to believe it. Like, she, like you just said, Carly, like we've established kind of these feelings so quickly already, like the relationship, and it's really believable from her end that like she cared about it. She cared about this relationship, but also recognizing her role as the other woman, the trustee, if you will. Yeah. So
I'm so glad I used that word. We have a tryst count going.
So Sheldrake is telling her, I'm going to leave my wife, and this seems to have an effect on Fran. And he was like, let's go somewhere else. And this is where like the turn happens for me again, where now suddenly all the pieces start lining up. I'm like, oh my God, wait. I've connected it to the fact that you're going to use Bud's apartment to tryst.
And you do, I will say too, you can tell when Fran sits down at this, she's like, I am here to tell him we need to stop. Like, she is very much like I know she told Bud earlier, like, I'll meet you at the musical. And I really believe she was like, I have to go to this quick thing. I have to go to dinner with some guy. And in her head, she's like, I'm telling him to fuck off, basically. And then she's going to go to this musical. So then when you see this, because you can really see her emotions shift from like defiant to like, oh my God, okay, he's actually going to do this for me. And then like you said, he said, let's go somewhere. And then they do.
They leave the cocktail bar, but we get a nice little shots of Sheldrake's secretary in the next booth over. She's doing a little bit of spy work, but we'll check in on that queen later.
Well, and I don't know if you thought this, but I thought it was going to be his secretary that he was going to hook up with. Only because in the office she was listening in on his phone calls.
Yeah, that's right.
And it kind of gave me a thought like, ooh. And that's where I really thought, and I think the movie probably wants you to think this to even more surprise you. But I really thought he was going to meet up with her. Yeah,
because we also, during the workday earlier, we established that one of the managers, during the whole like phone call juggling that Bud was doing, like one of the managers was like sleeping with a woman working at the call center at that place. So like you definitely get the sense, again, think Mad Men here, like the women that they're choosing to have affairs with are just other employees at the same company. So I think Sheldrake and his secretary, I think, is a reasonable line of thought there. But there's clearly like some sort of subplot going on with her. I like that the movie doesn't peel back that layer just yet. So we just see, we clock her at the cocktail bar, but Sheldrake and Fran do go to Bud's apartment. Of course, Fran doesn't know that it's Bud's apartment. And then we cut back to Bud outside the theater.
A sad shot.
Sad.
Of sick Bud.
Yeah, this is where I really started to fall in love with this movie. He gives the key to Sheldrake and it's being used with the woman. Like, oh, it's like just good. It's good. Some dramatic tension there. Just some good. Like now we, the audience, know more information than the characters do. And I think that's always fun.
Yeah.
So we do jump ahead to, about 3 weeks into the future, and Bud has received his promotion. So he gets a nice little office, like an actual office with like walls and a door and a window facing the city. The 4 managers all kind of show up and they're like, hey, Bud, congrats. And he's like, golly gee, thanks. And the managers quickly are like, so what about that key?
They're like, they literally say like, see what we did for you? Like, you're in this office, look at this. And so let's get that key passed around a little more now, Bud. They're
all like, give me the key, bitch. But Bud is like, I think in his head, he's like, I kind of got what I wanted. So he's kind of like, he's like, not tonight, fellas. Like, oh yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
They leave and Sheldrake comes in and we learn that Bud gave Sheldrake an actual copy of his apartment key to Sheldrake for his use. So we learn that like how Bud is treating the 4 managers is different than how he's treating Sheldrake. And that Bud is still very much, I think, kind of playing the game, so to speak, like still having an operation going on. It's just kind of now he can focus on Sheldrake for advancement opportunities because he no longer really needs the 4 managers. And again, Bud has no idea who Sheldrake is trysting with in his apartment. Sheldrake has a second key, but it's in this office scene where Sheldrake gives the audience more information. He is like kind of like laughing, kind of gloating about like the women that you tryst with, and he's like, oh, you just throw them a line about how you're going to leave your wife and they just are putty in your hands, whatever. Really kind of pervy, nasty stuff from Sheldrake here. But we learn now that he was manipulating Fran. And it really is gross when you think about it. Like the fact that he sets up the apartment ahead of time, which means like he was always planning to manipulate and push Fran into trysting with him that night. And then using a made up story about divorcing his wife to make that happen. So it's all nasty work. And, you, the viewer, and maybe I do too, but like, even though Bud is a very likable character, you kind of have to throw some judgment his way for, I think, upholding some of these structures.
He knows what he's doing.
Right. He knows what he's doing without really realizing, like, the women who are being hurt by this operation running. All the women who are being used for these affairs, people like Fran, who have because they're human beings, who actually have real human feelings about being involved in these scenarios that I think Bud and the other men are not ever really considering the women's feelings. I do want you to hold that in mind about Bud, because I think he is kind of on a journey here. But I think right now, like, he is very foundational, cares more about his own self-interest than he is about a woman's perspective. It's also in this scene where Bud is like, hey, Sheldrake, like, your lady left something behind. I found it in the couch cushion. And it's like a little like personal mirror, I guess. I don't know, women have these.
It's something women use called mirrors, and it was like a little, like compact, probably like some powder or something in there. And on the top, you could see it's like a rectangular compact, but you see a mirror and it's broken right down the middle. And he's like, oh, it's broken. And I think Sheldrake, I don't know if he was joking or something, but he was like, oh yeah, she threw it at me. And so you're like, okay. So he gives it to Sheldrake, and Sheldrake's like, I'll get it back to her.
So then we cut to, I think some time has passed yet again, because now it's like Christmas time and there's a huge holiday party happening at the office. And this holiday party is insane. Like, everybody's there, by the way. Like, everybody's at this party.
All 31,000 people, they say, work in this office building. They're all there. I wrote, everyone making out.
Everyone making out. Like, for a movie that's about sex a lot, you actually really don't see anything. This movie really does keep it 1960s version, but this is the most that you see of just like couples making out everywhere.
And there's very little chance that any of these are couples. You know,
You're
they're
right, yeah.
all, unless a bunch of couples work in this office together. But yeah, it's unbelievable how many people in every corner of the office you see on top of desks making out, against windows making out, everywhere.
Yeah, they literally got desks smushed together. They're on top of them dancing, like those classic little Broadway, kick your leg up numbers. Like, everyone's
drinking, like full out partying,
drunk.
Drinking champagne, drunk in the office. So it's crazy.
So of course, Bud is at this party. Fran is at the party. Fran's mostly working, but Bud is in the elevator. And he's like, you gotta join the fun. We learn, like, he's not too mad at Fran. Like, he does acknowledge, like, hey, you kind of stood me up, and she is apologetic about that. But Bud really does keep a sense of, like, hope and optimism within him. Like, you never really see him, like you probably would describe him as a lonely guy, but he really doesn't wear it on his face very much. And so he's just always kind of happy to be where he is. But he's able to convince Fran to come join the party. He goes to get her a drink. And while Fran's there alone, in comes our favorite spy lady. It's the secretary, whose name I don't remember. So we'll call her.
Me neither. I wrote it down somewhere. Miss Olsen.
Miss Olsen, yes, the secretary. She sidles up to Fran and she's like, hey girl, hey bestie, remember when you met with Sheldrake like 5 months ago?
I've been waiting for the Christmas party to tell you this, but...
Miss Olsen, she spills the tea here. She lets Fran know that her and Sheldrake also used to have a tryst, also used to have a summer fling, and that Sheldrake also used this line with Miss Olsen about divorcing his wife, leaving her. That never came true. And she knows just by being his secretary that he's still continuing on, that Fran, she was like, before you, it was Peggy, and before you, it was Miss Piggy, and before you...
She does go down a line of Muppet characters.
Yeah, Fran's pretty devastated to hear this. She's getting emotional. And as soon as, like, Bud returns, Miss Olsen just, like, melts back into the shadows where she came from.
Like, dances away.
And so Bud kind of pulls Fran in with their drinks to his, like, office. Fran is, like, there's been a total change in her. Like, she's no longer excited or having fun. Like, she's really bummed to hear this news, and Bud doesn't know anything. He's got a little box in his office, and he's like, look at this hat, this little bowler hat I got. And he's like trying it on. He's like, how does this look? Golly gee. And she's like, it looks fine, Bud.
It looks okay. She's like just staring into the abyss this whole time. Yeah. You could tell she's shocked, sad, brokenhearted. Baxter's just completely happy and a little drunk, I think, at this point.
Oh, yeah. Definitely a little drunk. He, like, tilts the bowler hat, and he's like, well, how does this look? And he was like, oh, do you have, like, a mirror or anything? So she pulls out that woman's mirror thing that we established.
The woman thing called a mirror.
And hands it over to Bud, and Bud opens it. And again, this is where the movie, like, I'm like, oh, that's good. Like, that's good. He could have found out it just by seeing them leave the apartment or anything like that. But this was such a clever, subtle way to do it, where Bud, of course, recognizes the broken mirror he had handed Sheldrake earlier. And suddenly he now knows in that moment that Fran is Sheldrake's tryst. Now you see Bud get really bummed out. So now these are just two sad people at a Christmas party. And Bud hands her the mirror, and he's like, it's broken. And she was like, I like it that way. Makes me look the way I feel. Which, loved. Yeah. So they both kind of leave this holiday party, and neither of them are very happy. Fran already has plans with Sheldrake at the apartment later that night. It's Christmas Eve. And Bud, in his sadness, he goes to a bar. He meets some random woman. There's like funny scene where he's drinking at the bar and she's this random woman is not too far away, but she's trying to get Bud's attention. So she just picks up a straw, tears off one end of the wrapper, and she blows, the other end of the wrapper is like a projectile onto Bud, who's not paying attention at all. And we see her do this like 5 different times with 5 different straws. Each time the wrapper just like landing in his hair, like hitting his face. And she still doesn't give up. She finally goes over there and she's like, hey,
I'm the girl with the straw wrappers.
And he's like, oh, okay, yeah. So they start drinking at this bar. Meanwhile, we cut to Fran and Sheldrake at the apartment. He's trying to set the mood, of course. It's Christmas Eve. He's like putting on some music. And she's really not having it. She's not happy at all. And Fran does tell Sheldrake, like, look, your secretary just gave me all of this hot pipe and tea, and I'm mad about it. And he's like, well, ignore her. She's crazy or whatever. Like, she's hysterical.
She's a woman.
Yeah. And he's like, I couldn't divorce my wife right now. It's Christmas Eve. He's like, let's just exchange gifts. And she gives him some nice, thoughtful gift. Mm-hmm. And he is like, oh, here's your gift. And pulls out like an envelope with a $100 bill.
Well, no, he opens his wallet and he just gives her a $100 bill.
Oh, it was like that? Oh
yeah, there was no envelope. He literally, you could tell he's like, I have something for you. And he pulls it, $100 bill. I just wanted you to buy yourself something nice.
Oh, mm-hmm. And she's like, an avocado, thanks.
And she, at this point, I think snaps. And she's just had it. She knows she's been brokenhearted enough. She's done.
She's done, and they do not tryst, and he leaves her there. And Fran, she stays at the apartment. She walks around. She heads to the bathroom, and she does find Bud's sleeping pills. And so I'll leave you on that cliffhanger. To cut back to Bud, who is full out drunk now with this random woman. The bar, it's gotta be 2 a.m. closing time because nobody's left in the bar, and the bar owner is like, can you two please get out? And so they do. Bud plans to bring her back to the apartment, and so he does. And so as he keys in, he notices that the record is still going, and this random woman is like, oh wow, what a beautiful place, oh, whatever she's saying.
She's just drunk.
And Bud's tidying up a few things. I think he's trying to cover the fact that Sheldrake was there earlier. And then he pops his head into his bedroom real quick and kind of does like a double take because he doesn't register that Fran is like passed out in his bed. So he's like, oh golly gee.
By the way, he never says golly gee in this whole movie. But I like that. That's the only dialogue Brad keeps bringing up. So keep going. It's
like the most 1960s thing I can
Yeah,
I
it's
can
very
consider.
1960s. But for our better halfians, he never actually says it, but...
So Bud goes in and he's like, hey, Fran. He's like, you gotta go. He's bummed that she's there. He knew that she was going to be there. And she's not responding. And so he sees the empty bottle of sleeping pills, and suddenly Bud is like in emergency mode. So this is the part of the movie where I was like, are you effing kidding me? I was like, you're going to kill another woman, are you?
We are standing this woman at this point. She is a queen. She has finally stood up to her man that isn't treating her right. And then we see her unconscious. I think Brad and I both, not watching this movie together, had the same thought. Are you effing kidding me?
God, it really cannot be you cannot win Best Picture unless a woman in your movie is either dead or in mortal danger at some point. Like, it's
100%.
Unbelievable. So Bud quickly shoos out this random woman. She's not pleased, but we never see her again. And instead, Bud gets his good neighbor friend, Dr. Dreyfus, over.
Well, and one thing about this is, again, it's a very serious part of the movie, but as Bud goes to get his neighbor, the doctor, he's like shooing out this other woman. So the doctor sees this woman leaving the apartment, and he's kind of like, oh, whoa. And then Bud's like, I need your help. I need you to please come in here. And then so the doctor goes in his apartment and sees this other woman in his bed. So again, this continuing gimmick throughout the movie of this neighbor that just can't believe all the women and alcohol. This guy who really doesn't have a lot of either of them, but he believes he does. Adds a little light to this very serious moment. But then the doctor does go over to help. Yeah,
the good doctor, he does help her vomit up all the pills, empty her stomach, and she's going to make a recovery. So she does live. We do not lose her. And Dr. Dreyfus and Bud are kind of talking out in the living room. And the doctor's kind of having like a come to Jesus moment with Bud a little bit of, he's like, you need to be a mensch, which is a Yiddish term for like, be a human being. You know, you need to look at like what's going on here, look at the way you're like living your life, and maybe you should be kinder to these women in your life because they're human beings. So, but I think this really resonates with Bud, and I think and again, he's not the one having all the trysts, but he is kind of complicit. So for the next like 2 days or so, Fran kind of just like recovers at the apartment, and she's very much like still kind of like sad, of course, about the whole situation. She's in bed at one point and he starts trying to play like gin rummy with her, and he's like setting up a card game. She's not very interested or very into it, but she plays along a little bit. But she's kind of like lamenting her like love life and just like, I have the worst luck in the world. Why can't I just be a nice guy like you, Bud?
Baxter on Christmas calls Sheldrake and says,
yeah,
I know you left Fran here and she's in a lot of trouble. She got very sick last night. And Sheldrake's very much like, well, I can't come over now. It's Christmas. And you can see his like happy family in the background. Yeah. And he's like, well, you just have to handle it, Baxter. And Baxter's like, okay.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, exactly. Just you can tell he's kind of disgusted. And again, I think leans on the mensch talk and is like, okay, I have to take care of her. Like, this is on me. I care for her. I'm going to take care of her. And the gin rummy. So I liked this little line, and it kind of reminded me of you, Brad. He went up to her, and he kind of trying to do something with her, like to get her mood up, and he was like, well, do you play gin rummy? And she's like, I'm not very good at it. He's like, well, I am. Let's play. And so it kind of reminded me of you. And Brad and I play a lot of board games and stuff. And Brad's very good at board games. And I think if I were to be like, well, I'm not very good at this game, I think Brad would be like, oh, well, I'm good at it. Let's play. So,
I am.
Yeah, exactly. So I liked that line. And I think it, again, was kind of exactly what Fran needed.
Yeah. And she is kind of aware of the phone call to Sheldrake. Like, she knows too that Sheldrake knows and is clearly not doing anything. She does put his $100 bill in this envelope and signs it to him and tells Bud, like, give this back to him. But she does not finish that gin rummy game just because she kind of falls asleep, actually. She just flat out falls asleep during. And at one point, one of those like 4 managers shows up and he's trying to use the apartment for a tryst or whatever. So now they're resorting to like just showing up at the apartment because Bud and Fran, they haven't really been back to work. So now this manager shows up and he sees Fran in the apartment. So he's like, oh, wow, buddy boy. Wow.
Way to go, buddy boy.
Way to go, Bud. So now one of the managers has seen Fran there, which is kind of important later. And then we do cut to the office with Sheldrake in particular. You know, he's still getting updates from Bud, but choosing to really not be a part of it. And I think just hoping like it doesn't blow up in his face. And he does bring in Miss Olsen to his office. And she was like, yes, bitch. And he's like, you're fired.
You're out of here.
And she was like, I was on my way out anyways. She starts packing up her desk, but she's like, you know what? I got a little bit of time here. Picks up the phone and she's like, Mrs. Sheldrake, you want to get lunch, girl?
Our meddling queen.
Love her. Meanwhile, back at the apartment, Bud wants to set up a little bit of a romantic dinner, you know, like Fran kind of looks around the apartment. She's not very impressed with how Bud, he's very much like that singular bachelor guy living alone. She's like, what's this like tennis racket doing in your kitchen? He's like, well, I used it to strain some pasta, of course. I kind of related to that a little bit.
I was wondering when you were explaining that if you were going to relate it to your bachelor house of sorts, but
yeah, I think I do a fairly good job with cleaning up, but I also never leave my couch, so I never really make a mess anywhere. And then, you know, I'm never doing anything in my kitchen.
I was gonna say, you definitely don't use a tennis racket in your kitchen because you don't.
Because there's no pasta. There's no anything.
There's no food in there,
So Bud goes grocery shopping, which I sorely need to do for myself here soon. But he wants to set up this whole romantic dinner, and he's like, and her spirits are lifting up. You can start to see it.
So during this nice dinner that he made, they're sitting down, and they kind of have a nice like heart to heart in a way. And
that's right.
One quote that I wrote down that I really liked, Baxter that said it. He said, "Some people take, some people get took, and they know they're getting took, and there's nothing they can do about it." And I think that was his kind of way of sitting with Fran and being like, you know, I know where your head's at, and just kind of, you know, he also shares that he at one point had kind of going along with, you know, what had all just occurred. He said, just so you know, like at one point I had tried to do something similar. He said, I bought a gun. I, you know, was driving and I was planning to take my life. And He's like, and I did shoot myself, but I shot myself in the knee.
Yeah.
And he's
On
like,
accident.
Yeah, he's like, on accident. I was driving and I had the gun in my lap and I shot myself in the knee. And he said, that hurt so bad that no way was I doing that anymore. So again, with this movie, there's drama involved, there's seriousness, but Jack Lemmon, who plays Baxter, just has a way of alleviating kind of the tension, and I thought that was a really beautiful moment. Yeah.
The movie really doesn't lose its lighthearted sense of tone, I would say. There's kind of like a unnecessary subplot going on where like Fran's brother-in-law rolls up into town. He hasn't heard from Fran in a couple days, so he goes to her workplace. And he learns from the managers, because one of the managers, of course, saw Fran at the apartment. So they're like, go to this guy's apartment. And the brother-in-law kind of shows up to interrupt the dinner.
He's like a scary guy, too.
Yeah, he's like a leather jacket. He's like...
Yes, I don't know why they did. I mean, I guess to have some intimidation, but yeah. And he is looking for her like he's a hitman.
Yeah, I could have done without any of this, honestly. I think this is the only part of the movie where I felt like we were maybe dragging things on a little much. So this brother-in-law shows up, punches Bud in the face. Fran does give him a nice little forehead kiss.
Little thank you smooch.
For his effort there. Yeah, but he now sports this nice black eye for the rest of the movie. And so a couple of days goes by here. It's New Year's Eve, and Fran has now left the apartment. Bud has been promoted again now to like assistant director of personnel. He's like right underneath Sheldrake, and his office is right next to Sheldrake's. And in the office, like Sheldrake is talking about how he could really use like Bud's key because his wife, kicked him out. So we learn Miss Olsen's efforts, our hero, did lead to Sheldrake getting a divorce or at least being separated from his wife now. Like she has left him and kicked him out of the house. We'd love to see it. But he's also asking Bud for the key again. And for Bud, he knows like, oh, this is about Fran. And in fact, he plans to tell Sheldrake, don't worry about Fran. I'm in love with her. I'm going to take her off your hands. And as he walks into the office, Sheldrake's like, hey, Bud, don't worry about Fran. I'm in love with her and I'm going to take her off your hand.
For like 2 minutes, you see, I liked this part of the movie. You see Baxter rehearsing this. He's like, because he's like going to tell Sheldrake, he's like, I've got news for you. All your troubles are over. I'm going to take Fran off your hands. And it's just like he keeps rehearsing this, and you can tell he's like, all right, I'm going to tell Sheldrake. Sheldrake walks in, says word for word, Baxter, I've got news for you. All your troubles are over. I'm going to take Fran off your hands, or something like that. And it was just so funny.
So, but it's kind of bummed. I think in his mind, he thinks like, oh, Fran is with Sheldrake again, or Sheldrake plans to pursue Fran. And so he does plop a key down onto the desk, goes into his office, and Sheldrake comes in 2 seconds later. He's like, this is the key to the executive washroom. And Bud's like, that's right. Go clean up your attitude, bitch. He's like, I quit. So we do see Bud quits this brand new promotion, quits his job. He is finally out, stands up to Sheldrake. He won't offer up his apartment like this anymore. And he does run into Fran at the office. And they have this like very interesting exchange where Fran's kind of like, I'm going to meet with Sheldrake, but I won't see him until his divorce is like final. Like she's kind of choosing to go back to Sheldrake. And Bud's like, golly gee, that's okay with me. He's like, I'm actually with that lady over there. And he just kind of points to some random woman standing in the lobby who's very much not with him at all. And Fran's like, oh, okay. But you can kind of see she's a little bummed out too to hear this news. And so Bud heads back to the apartment and immediately starts packing up. So not only is he quitting his job, but I think he wants nothing to do with this apartment. He doesn't want to be there. He doesn't want to be reminded he's going to go somewhere else. So he starts packing up, and we cut to Sheldrake and Fran at the cocktail party, and it's New Year's Eve. Sheldrake's like, get a load of this. I give Bud this promotion and he just up and quits on me. How dare he? And Fran hears this and she just gets a smile on
She's
on
like,
her
that
face.
Is so hot.
And suddenly we see, it's like the realization just kind of crosses her face. She realizes like Bud refused to hand over his apartment key, quit his job over her basically. So she leaves the cocktail bar. She rushes back to Bud's apartment. She's like heading up the stairs to his floor. And before she gets to the door, we hear this like
bang!
Gunshot noise. So of course she's recalling their earlier conversation where he said, he accidentally shot himself and stuff.
My mouth dropped open.
I was like, are you effing kidding me?
I know. This part was so, again, a turn of events I did not see coming. I couldn't believe it. And
Right.
so she, like you said, rushes to the door. Something happened. She's knocking, like, open up. And then
He does.
he does. And he has a bubbling bottle of champagne that had obviously just been popped. And he's like, hey, what's
what's
wrong?
up?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I loved it. I loved this part of the movie.
For me, I was like, I need this movie to stop teasing character deaths for me and just can we just make it through one Best Picture winner with no major deaths? Please, I beg. So she kind of comes in and she sees that he's like packing up. So she's like, oh, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna like head out. And she was like, where are the cards though? We still have that gin rummy game to finish. And he's like, oh, they're over there. So she grabs them and they sit down on the couch and he looks at her and he's like, Fran, I love you.
I love you, Miss Kubelik.
Yeah, I love you. And she takes a beat, looks over to him and she says, shut up and deal, with a little smile on her face. And that's the end.
Yay! I loved it.
Let's talk about it because, Carly and I did not watch this together. And so I've been so curious. In my head, I was like, I think Carly will really like it because it's romance, it's comedy. And I wonder, Carly, if you thought I would hate this movie because normally I tend to steer towards very much fiction-esque films. I always say, like, I don't want to watch The Notebook. I can go do that in real life, Like,
Brad, please. No, you could not.
I can have The Notebook any day I want. But I think that is what is so... I had a good feeling about this movie, and I think I feel like for this movie to be in the Best Picture winners is an unusual choice, and I love it more for how much it kind of stands out from the rest. Like, this was not dour, down, sad, depressing, like, story. This had a lot of humor in it. As a writer, I loved the writing in this so much. Like, I just loved their dialogue. The writing is really good, and it's very cute, and it's very just like you really believe the chemistry between Fran and Bud. I just love this movie. I love it, actually.
Yay!
I love it.
And it's like kind of classified as a rom-com, and I don't know if there's any other rom-com Brad would ever say that about.
The romance bone does exist inside me, which that sounded really dirty, actually.
Yeah. Oh, no thank you. No thank you.
When it comes to me and the romantic movies I would want to watch, obviously it's something where I could see myself in that position. It's not to say that like I see myself in Bud, really. Maybe not so much the like letting managers have affairs in my home kind of.
But I mean, Brad, if you felt confident you could get more money and a promotion, would you
Maybe.
would you not leave your house and go to Starbucks for a few hours every night?
I love being home, though. It would be hard for me to give up my evening hours. I would need them to do this between like the hours of like 2 to 4 p.m. But I mean, with Bud, it's like kind of a lonely guy who lives alone, who is dealing with unrequited love. I think that is a universal feeling. And Fran, like even the last line, it's not like she's like, I love you too, Bud. It doesn't end in like some grandiose like Lifetime movie kiss with snow falling all of a sudden out of nowhere.
Hey, every Lifetime movie is not a Hallmark Christmas movie, Brad.
Oh my God,
Please.
that's what I meant to say.
Please.
You know, she's just like, shut up and deal. And like, you get the sense that like, she's going to see him. They're going to try this thing out. But I love that the movie doesn't spell that out for us. And This is the most happiest ending I feel like we've gotten.
The most happiest.
Yeah. So I loved it. As far as our ratings goes, we're going with the key emoji.
Yeah, I'm interested, Brad. How many keys are you thinking?
I'm giving it 4. 4 keys. Obviously 3 would be average, right? But this movie stood out to me in an above average way. I'm not going to give it the 5. I'm curious when I will give out a 5, but 4 feels right to me, especially because this is my first time being introduced to this movie. I would watch this movie again. Like I would be excited to have a deeper relationship to the movie that maybe one day it would be like a 5-star kind of movie for me. But I think for now, just having watched it the first time for the sake of this project, I'm going to give it 4 keys. What about you, Carly?
Yeah, I too was thinking 4, and I already put my rating in, so I can't say I'm copying you. I sincerely felt it was a 4-key film. I loved it. I
agree.
Loved the twists and the turns. I think without the few twists in the movie, it has very good dialogue. I think it might have been a 3 film, but the fact that it caught me off guard 2, maybe 3 times throughout, I think that's just a good film. You know, it's a good movie. Yeah. Like you said, the dialogue, it told it told so many stories about these characters. Loved, like you said, I would watch again. I was reading a lot of reviews on this movie after I'd watched it, and some people were like, oh, I'd watch this every year. Some people said they always watch it at Christmas, which I don't think that makes any sense, but they're like, oh, it's always a Christmas movie for me. And I'm like, just because they have Christmas in a movie does not make it a Christmas movie. But yeah, I just loved the movie. Like you said, I immediately said, I want to watch this again. And I am so thankful that this project brought me to it. For any of our listeners who, are choosing to not watch the movies and just listen to our podcast, for one, thank you. But two, I really do recommend you watch it. If you're thinking like, oh, it's black and white, 1960, like I really do recommend, like, it's on, at least at the time of this recording, it's on Amazon Prime for free with some ads. Yeah, I would recommend that you actually watch this one, and you're not gonna be left feeling very sad about life. It blends comedy and drama so well, I thought, and I think it's for everyone. So I agree. Watch it. Yeah, well, speaking of, like, is this movie for everyone? Let's talk specifics here. Carly, would you say this is for the girlies? I think for sure, like I said, I think it's for everyone. I think the girls will enjoy the Fran character for sure. If you like a strong female lead, she does make it to the end of the movie, which is a nice, whoa, an added bonus. She lives. And I think it's for the girls. I think it is. It's just a cutie film, and I loved it. What about you, Brad? Is it for the gays? I'm gonna say yes. Okay, yay! Like, obviously this is all heterosexual. That's all well and fine, but like you said, like, I loved every single female character, both minor and major, in this movie. You're right. Like, even the minor ones just had funny moments still, that, like, the secretary, Miss Olsen, like, there's a lot of women to stand in this movie. Yeah, I'm going to say it's for the gays. Yeah, I love it. Well, let's talk about our rankings now. Carly, you've probably been waiting for this day all your life, but I want to make some changes to our ranking tier system a little bit. What? But it makes so much sense and it's so simple. Okay, calm down. Yeah, well, I found after watching The Apartment, I have a specific place I want to rank The Apartment, but it didn't make a whole lot of sense given the other movies we've put into a similar place. So then I thought about it holistically, and I thought, okay, maybe there are a few too many layers, a few too many tiers, and maybe we should delete some. What do you mean, Brad? We only have S, A, B, C, D, E, and F. Oh my God. Okay, so what do you recommend? Well, I recommend that we remove the S tier, we remove the E tier. We currently don't have any films in either of those categories. I think we go down from 7 in total down to 5. And I think I would also like to move $1 Million Baby and Platoon from the B to the A tier and leave nothing in the B tier for now. For just this minute. Just this minute. Leave that empty. So what do you think about that? I am overjoyed. While I think the last one made complete sense, I think this one makes total sense. So I love the idea of A, B, C, D, F, and 5. I think it also gives us a good, a 5-tier rating system always makes the most sense to me. Yeah. And I love that idea. I think the one thing, though, that we need to watch is that we also have a rating system with 5. So we always use out of 5 emojis. So, will it always align with that? Of course, we never have the same rating either. So we don't always have the same rating. So yeah, I think that's something that we'll make sure, see how it aligns. But I love it. I love that it is a little smaller, cleaner. Yeah. So we are officially moving $1 Million Baby and Platoon to the A tier. Yep. As high as they can get. As high as they can get. I mean, we really loved those movies. Having the S tier there, like, I kept being like, what would be an S? What would be an A? We don't have anything those. And yeah, this just feels correct to me. And with those changes made, I would like to put The Apartment into the B tier. I definitely agree. I think it's a very B movie. When I was originally looking in comparison to our original, I mean, I definitely didn't think it was an above $1 Million Baby or Platoon. So I was like, it's not an S. B, we had Oliver. I was like, it's leagues above Oliver. Like, I can't compare these two at all. So it was hard for me to put them in the same. I could have settled to put it with Oliver above Oliver, but it wouldn't have felt right to me. So this feels a lot better to me. And with our new system, we have at least one movie in every tier. Every tier. I like it. It's going to provide some juicier conversations to films, because now, no matter what, they're going to be placed
right next to another film that we've already discussed. So I think it'll help us be like, did we like this more than this previous movie or not? So
yeah,
cool. I'm glad you agreed to all those changes. And Fine, I'll say you were right all along, Carly. I know you like to hear it.
Thank you, Brad. I couldn't agree more.
Well, let's get into some of our mini deep dives that we've done. And so this was the 33rd Academy Awards. This was hosted by Bob Hope, who is an actor, comedian, entertainer.
Love.
Fun fact about him, he's hosted the Oscars 19 times.
Shut up.
19
That's
times.
Like 20% of them.
And this is the first time that we're talking about him as the host, but we're going to talk about him 18 more times.
Oh my gosh. Like, did you look up like when his first and last were?
So I want to say it was maybe like the 40s he starts, the 1940s. And then I think he goes even as late as like somewhere in the 1970s. We're going to see him a lot.
Wow.
And fun fact that I think only you would appreciate, Carly, but when I looked at his Wikipedia page, he said him and his family, like, they emigrated to the United States when he was 4 years old, and he grew up near Cleveland.
Oh, all the important people, I swear, are from the great city of Cleveland, Ohio.
As you heard at the start of this recording, but Audrey Hepburn presented the Best Picture Award this year. And let's talk about some of those lesser half movies. We have The Alamo, which is a John Wayne Western. This was like a big one for John Wayne. He worked really hard on this one.
We'll always remember.
It had 7 nominations, which I think was like pretty much the second highest of the evening, but only 1 win. So, I mean, really the Apartment is going to be the big winner of the night. And then our next film is a movie called Elmer Gantry, which is an interesting title. It is a drama featuring like a con man. So it seems a bit of an unusual sort of Best Picture nominee, I would say. Yeah. It had 5 nominations and 3 wins. So actually, I would say this was the second big winner of the night. Suck at the Alamo.
Suck at the Alamo.
Our next movie is called Sons and Lovers, which apparently is like a take on Oedipus Rex. So I did have to like I read the whole film description because I'm like, does a mother and son make out in this movie? Yeah. Or like what happens? But can confirm like the son just has a lot of mommy issues and it just gets in the way of his love life. But he doesn't seemingly have anything romantic with his mom. So this movie has 7 nominations, only 1 win. So the same as the Alamo. And our final film is called The Sundowners, which takes place in the Australian outback.
Correct.
Don't have much more information than that. It had 5 nominations and 0 wins.
Aww.
So The Apartment had 10 nominations in total. It wins in 5 categories. Of course, it wins in Best Picture, Best Directing, so Billy Wilder does take it home there. It wins in Best Writing, which I very much agree with. Best Art Direction and Film Editing, which okay, that's fine. It does not win in any of the acting categories. Sadly, Jack Lemmon, he is nominated in the Best Actor category, but sadly does not win. Shirley MacLaine is nominated for Best Actress. She sadly does not win. And then the neighbor, Dr. Dreyfus, was nominated in the Best Actor Supporting category. So not Sheldrake, but the neighbor.
Love.
That actor does not win. And then lastly, it does not win Best Sound or Cinematography. So a few other fun facts about this Academy Awards. This was the first one to air on ABC, where pretty much it stays forever, except for a few years in the early 70s where NBC has it. But otherwise, the Oscars stays on ABC. It's also the first year that they used a red carpet into the ceremony.
Wow.
This is the first red carpet year.
Wow.
So Elizabeth Taylor is going to win her first Oscar. She is the one who wins it in Best Actress for a movie called Butterfield 8. And I read that she had a scary bout of pneumonia right before this. And people believe that she only won the Oscar out of pity because she was so deathly ill versus her actual performance in whatever Butterfield 8 is.
Wait, so she got really sick around the time of voting, I guess?
I guess, yeah.
And everyone was reporting on it so much, and all the voters were like, I'm going to give it to her because she's sick.
My understanding, too, is Butterfield 8 was a movie that was panned, that people hated it. And so I think in their mind, they were trying to reconcile, how could she possibly win for this awful movie?
Did she win over Shirley MacLaine?
She did, yeah.
Oh, yeah, now I believe it.
And lastly, this year, I just wanted to shout out, but Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho this was its year. It was nominated in a few categories, but not nominated in Best Picture. So, and then really quickly about Billy Wilder. This will not be the last time we talk about him. He also directed The Lost Weekend, which also won Best Picture. So we have more to see from this director, and I'm excited. I actually want to watch more of his films. Maybe I'll start with the ones that didn't win Best Picture. But he's also directed The 7-Year Itch with Marilyn Monroe and Some Like It Hot. There's a few others that I was like, oh, I recognize that title. So he's definitely a prolific film director. And
his other win for The Lost Weekend, like you said, was 15 years earlier.
Yeah.
So it's not even like a short run of films. It was 15 years earlier. So right. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, he's been in the game for a long time. A lot of his movies deal with like subject matter that just push boundaries, and that did resonate with me watching The Apartment, because like you have to imagine like the 1960s was a time in which like that idyllic sort of nuclear family was being like pushed heavily in the 1960s with the invention of the television and like commercials and advertisements, all kind of projecting the same idea that this is what families look like and should look like, and this is what your morals and values should be. So it's fun to have a movie that actually is all about sort of men cheating on their wives and displaying a lack of morality, which I have to imagine in 1960s audience, maybe the general audience probably hated this movie for these depictions. And it was like the critics that allowed it to be this award winner. But I do wonder maybe how controversial was such a movie in 1960s. Billy Wilder is no longer alive, but his gravestone has a quote on it, or epitaph, and it says, "I'm a writer, but then nobody's perfect." Supposedly that's a reference to the final line in Some Like It Hot. So I think Billy Wilder is also known for those like really great closing lines of a film. So that's what makes me kind of want to watch more of his movies. So, but let's talk about these lead actors. I will say I found Jack Lemmon to be such a cutie. I was a smitten kitten with Bud, so I would love to know more about him.
Such a charmer.
Yeah.
Within the first 10 minutes, I knew I loved him. He was like comfortable to watch. He was like soothing. Yeah, such a cutie.
Yeah.
Loved him. Jack Lemmon has won 2 Oscars before this film. So in 1955, and then one actually after. So he has won 2 Oscars, one before, one after, for 2 other movies, neither of which we will watch because they didn't win Best Picture. It actually, when I read this about him, it brought me to an interesting Wikipedia page, which was a list of actors who have won 2 or more acting Oscars.
Oh.
Whether it's for actor, actress, or supporting actor, actress.
Is that a long list?
I was going to say, how long do you think? What would you guess?
I mean, only 2 or more? Like,
only 2 or more.
I feel like it's got to be a decent length, but like your tone implies that maybe might be actually much smaller than you would realize. So I'm going to take a guess here and say it's 10 or less people.
Oh my gosh, no, it's 46.
Oh, okay. So I really just got that completely. I just was really wrong there.
Just like the movie, I wanted my tone to really throw you a little bit. And no, so it's 46.
46 is kind of small. And when you consider there's typically 4 acting categories every year, and it's been on for, 97 years. Like, I guess. Yeah. Yep.
I was very interested, and just looking through the list was interesting. I really enjoyed it. So a Wikipedia page to read one day if you're bored. So the year before this movie, and I have seen this movie before, but did not realize it was Jack Lemmon as I was watching this movie, was Some Like It Hot. It was nominated. You had just mentioned it, also by Billy Wilder, also with Jack Lemmon. It stars Jack Lemmon, another gentleman, and then Marilyn Monroe. They're like the stars, the 3 stars. And this movie, I watched it in a film class in college, and I loved it.
Okay.
Basically, the plot is these 2 businessmen at the beginning of the movie see this murder by the mob, the literal mob. They're like hanging out. They see this happen, and then they have to go into hiding to protect themselves. So they dress up as women, and they're in drag for like 80% of the movie. Yeah.
Okay. Kind of love if it's not too cartoonish,
And I don't think it is, from what I remember. I remember really enjoying the film.
Okay.
And I enjoyed that Marilyn Monroe was in it. I enjoyed the drag aspect of it. It was just kind of, again, there was some drama. There was a lot of comedy. And I remember the ending being like, oh. So again, I I think it's very Billy Wilder-esque based on this. It was actually not nominated for Best Picture, but it was nominated for a bunch of other things. Jack Lemmon was nominated, Billy Wilder was nominated, but none of them won for Some Like It Hot. So I really liked that. I think if you are listening, go watch it. If you haven't seen it, Brad, I really think you would enjoy it as well.
Okay.
And actually, so during this movie, of course, Marilyn Monroe was in it with Billy Wilder and Jack Lemmon. I read that they didn't have the greatest time with Marilyn Monroe. I guess she was kind of a party girl, kind of like drama queen-esque. And so that played into why they had this little jab at Marilyn Monroe. Remember in this film, there was this like random party girl. She was like this drunk girl at the bar, and he was like, she kind of reminds me of Marilyn Monroe. And then she was a literal mess. So I read somewhere that because of their experience with Marilyn on Some Like It Hot was why they put that little dig in this movie. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So Jack Lemmon, he was in a lot of other things. It's interesting you mentioned the gravestone of Billy Wilder because there was something that I thought was cool of Jack Lemmon's gravestone. His gravestone literally reads, Jack Lemmon in. Like, it's supposed to read like a title screen from a film.
Yeah. And
it's just like, it's all it says. Jack Lemmon, under it has small N, and that's the whole gravestone. Like, you can look it up, it's there, and then you just... So funny. And I think it really is true to like who he is as a person and actor. I think it's like clever and interesting that these two men who obviously have done projects together both were like, oh, when I die, I'm going to make that funny too. One random thing about the movie I found was there's that big scene where you see the whole office. And like you said, it's hundreds of desks all in like organized lines in the back. So I read about that. The room that they did it in was not that big, but they wanted it to seem big. So they actually bought a lot of like desks that gradually got smaller, and they just lined them up smaller. And in the front, they had adult actors sitting there, but in the back, they had children sitting there. So that it looked like it was this big room and the people were getting smaller. So when you take screen grabs of this film, I need to see one of those. And I'm sure in black and white we can't really tell, but Brad clicked his pen and is taking a note. Because Brad does do our screen grabs that go on our Instagram. But I thought that was so funny and it made me want to go back and watch, but I didn't want to watch an ad for 2.5 minutes. So, so yeah, let me know what you find about that.
I love that because like we live in the day and age of like this would have been a CGI shot, this would have been like a green screen to show. So I love the practical effect usage of that. Like I think that's so fun.
Yes. So of course we've already talked about Shirley MacLaine and her personal life. But I did find a couple of new things. I guess when she was given the role, she only was given 40 pages of the script because they didn't want her to know what happens at the end, which...
I think that is probably maybe more common. Like, I don't know if they just did it with her or they did it with other actors on the film, but, you know, you sometimes... actors are part of these, like, top secret... You know, I imagine, like, Marvel does this all the time where, like, they maybe, like, will parse out the script because they don't want anything to, like, leak or spoil or anything like that. So.
Another thing about Shirley MacLaine is her younger brother is Warren Beatty, which I did not know. Yeah. Huge.
News to me.
And I was like, oh, their parents must have been big actors or producers. No, they're just normal people. So I don't know what kind of stuff they had in their genes, but they are both big actors, both very large careers.
Yeah, wow.
She also is the author of many books, and a lot of her bigger books are about spirituality and metaphysics. And she's believed to be a member of this spirituality that some people believe is a cult, but they very much say they're not a cult. But this belief looks up to this man named Ramtha, who is their god. They look up to him. Okay. And Shirley MacLaine, in her books, really, truly believes in a past life she was the brother of Ramtha.
Okay.
So I did do a small deep dive into Ramtha, and if you want to, you can, but I did read a lot of places that Shirley MacLaine is very sure in a past life she was the male sibling of this god.
Okay,
all Shirley. We can do at this point is believe her. And
done.
So, yeah, that was another thing on Shirley. I then looked into Fred McMurray, who plays Sheldrake. He was those were the only 3 top billed actors at the beginning of the 6-minute opening credits. And so Fred McMurray was right before this. He had signed a very large contract with Disney. And he did this movie right before he started all of his Disney films. He was in a number of Disney films over like a 15-year stretch. He was like I looked into it. He was always like the dad. He was like this, just
Okay.
heartwarming, lovable guy in all these
The
films.
pacifier?
He was the dad. No, Brad. Brad, please. I love Vin Diesel and the pacifier. He's on my Mount Rushmore of people that I
of movie dads.
of movie. No, just of men that I would sleep with. Vin Diesel and the pacifier is on there. Please don't make fun of him.
Okay, I'm sorry. I take it back. Put down the knife, Carly. I promise.
So Fred McMurray, he may have been a Vin Diesel of his generation. I don't doubt that. You're right. You make a good point. So he was a huge father figure in the Disney world. And he actually, there's a Disney Legend honor, and every year new people are initiated into this Disney Legend group. I looked, and usually like 10 people a year. There's currently 314 people who have ever been denoted as Disney Legends. You're given this like very nice trophy, and your like name's put somewhere in Disney, one of the Disney things. So it started in 1987. And Fred McMurray was the very first one given this honor. First
member of the Mickey Mouse Club? That's crazy.
Yes, in so many words, yes. You would think it would have been somebody else. I don't...
That's wild.
Yeah, Fred McMurray, a name that you could probably say to a lot of Disney adults, and they would have no idea who you're talking about.
It's funny to then think about his role in this movie where he's not playing a Disney-esque character at all.
He actually said that he was chastised in the street for this role. That, you hear this a lot with villains and things, but I guess he at one point said he was hit with his purse for how he treated Fran in this movie. So that was like a famous quote I kept seeing when I looked him up. So yeah, big Disney guy. And again, I think a lot of Disney adults I don't know if any of them would know this man, and he is a very big person in the Disney world. So the last person I did look into, just because I loved his character so much, was Dr. Dreyfus.
Yeah.
Played by Jack Crucian.
Okay.
And I looked him up and I saw him and I was like, oh, he looks super familiar. And he probably is familiar to you in some way. He has been in 85 movies and 70 shows. And that's not 70 episodes, 70 different shows he's been in.
So he guest appeared on Grey's Anatomy, CSI.
Yes, exactly.
ER.
It was a lot of shows like that, though. Like little things here and there that he would do. Of course, it was more like 70s and 80s that he did them in, but huge. And there was actually one show that I knew him from. And I was like, oh, and you're not going to get this, but I will. And I think a lot of our fans will. He was in Full House. He had a recurring role in Full House as belovedly known as Papuli, who was their Greek grandfather who kept coming back. And he was always like this lovable grandfather that would keep coming back. So I did recognize him from that when I saw it. I was like, oh my God, yeah, that is him. So shout out to Jack. I liked him in this role. And I was glad that he got nominated for supporting actor. I thought that was very cool. And like you said, Fred McMurray did not.
That doctor character was just so... he really maybe gets like 10 minutes of screen time in this entire movie, but he makes the most of it. Like, every single scene, bam, he just stands out, including certainly that pivotal scene where he helps Fran and resuscitates her and everything, and then has that, like, serious conversation with Bud about his lifestyle choices.
Yeah. And even when he's on screen but not talking, like his facial expressions when he would see girls coming in and out, and he was just he added a lot of fun and seriousness and I think just heart to the movie in a lot of ways. So yeah, that's all I did. I just think this movie was so good. I think that's why we've talked about it for so long. Because
I know, yeah.
It is. It was one of my favorites for sure. It might even be my favorite we've watched.
I do. It's going to have like a special little personal place in my heart, I think. Like, it's definitely, of the 6 movies we've done, it's definitely in that top half, that top 3. And yeah, I think I'm still, I guess maybe in some ways, maybe this is a sign of just like the films that we're most exposed to growing up in our 30 years of life. But I think I do have an affinity towards those ultra serious, those really deep emotional ones, which is why like it's hard for me to imagine The Apartment like above Platoon or $1 Million Baby or anything like that. But
yeah, part
of like doing this podcast, I was like partly sort of curious if there would be any movie that I had not watched before that could just like hit me, like that would just, I just would watch it and get it and like love it. Like could I find a new favorite movie from this list of Best Picture winners, right? Because I haven't seen like almost all of them. So like to me, this is like the first one that I'm like, I liked that.
Would you put it in your bracket?
Maybe. I might.
I don't know if you want to out your bracket to the pod, but
yeah. I'll briefly explain without getting too deep into my illness. But, you get faced with this question all the time growing up. It's like, what's your favorite movie? What's your favorite movie? Like, what are your top 5 movies of all time? Whatever. You get film bros just in your face as like a conversation starter. And the film bro will be like, well, I love The Departed and The Revenant. And
and that's how they sound.
But so for me, I was like, well, I actually want to make a list of all the movies that I know are important to me, and then put them into a randomly seeded bracket and see like what comes out on top, and then actually in a quantifiable kind of way, actually be able to tell somebody like, this is certifiably my favorite movie right now. So yeah, this is a peek into how much free time I have. I won't tell you how many movies are on that list, but it's a nice bracket number. I'll just say that.
And this movie maybe could be included at one point in a restructure, you would say. Yeah.
Because in my head, it's like I could run the bracket again in a few years and replace like the bottom ranked movies with new movies I've seen in the past few years that I really liked. So I am kind of keeping track of this to be like, oh, and yeah, to me, it's like, I think I gotta build my relationship more with the apartment. Sometimes I watch movies the first time and like, I love it. And then sometimes I find, some time later or I rewatch it and there's like some diminishing returns where I'm like, oh, I enjoyed it a little less. For some reason, the only movie that comes to mind where I've had this experience was A Simple Favor with Blake Lively and Anna Kendrick, where when we first saw that, Carly, I loved it. I was like, this is so fun. Yeah. Some quotable lines, like good performances. But I have found since watching it, and I did initially put it in my bracket, but I found like, oh, it's like definitely in the lower end. I think each time I watch it, I'm like, oh, I have a little less fun.
Then you see how they CGI'd Blake Lively to look very sick and ill, and you're like,
oh.
But it will forever have a place in our hearts for simply the line, "You brother fucker."
Exactly. Yep. Iconic immediately. All right. Well, this might be our longest episode yet. We'll see.
Rightfully so.
But let's go ahead and talk about the near future, because we do have our next movie picked out and we will be watching Terms of Endearment.
Yay!
We're going to go from the nice, lighthearted, funny, friendly, The Apartment to probably something that's going to make Carly cry.
I know. I really think these might be my first watery tears.
Yeah.
I've had a throat lump. Will we get to tears?
Mm-hmm.
Tune in 2 weeks to find out.
And apparently we're going to see Shirley MacLaine. Again,
there's our girl. She's back.
We're going to complete the trilogy, the Shirley MacLaine trilogy of films. So yeah, we're heading to the early 80s for Terms of Endearment. So yeah, if you have some time, rate and review us on this whatever platform you listen to this podcast. We appreciate any and all feedback, and give our Instagram a follow as well. We appreciate it, and
we love you.
We love you. Shut up and deal.
Shut up and deal. And Bradley, I love you.
Love you too.
Bye, love you.
Bye, love you.